Everybody came now. So 13 participants are there. Shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good evening. I think so. Last class we stopped with boiling point. Am I right? So you know very well about the boiling point. The boiling the point at which the liquid is started to boil. So when the liquid will boil, so when its vapor pressure or reaches 1 atmospheric pressure, then the liquid started to boil. That's what it's a boiling point. Here, generally boiling point is directly proportional to molar mass. So if molar mass is high, boiling point is also high. And second point is boiling point is inversely proportional to branching. That is very important. Once the branching increases, the boiling point will get decreases. Okay, because that is inversely proportional to each other. Say for example, if suppose I'm having CH3, CH2, CH2, Cl. This is a compound. So 1-chloropropane. CH3, CH2, Cl. Then CH3, Cl. So chloroethane, chloromethane, like that. Okay, which has higher boiling point. So according to our concept, boiling point is directly proportional to molar mass. So according to this, molar mass will be very high for this compound. So this has higher boiling point. And
So what is the second statement? Is it boiling point is indirectly proportional to branching?
Yes, inversely proportional to branching. Okay. So if molar mass is very high, then boiling point will also be very high. So they may given something like this. Say for example, suppose if they given like this, CH3Cl and CH2Cl2, CHCl3, CCl4, which has higher boiling point. Usually, this will have higher boiling point because 4 chlorine atoms are there. So here 1 chlorine, here 2 chlorine, here 3 chlorine. Here we have 4 chlorine atoms. That's what it has higher boiling point than this. Okay, so it has lesser boiling point and it has higher boiling point. In general, haloalkanes has higher boiling point than that of their parental compound. Say for example, methane is a parental compound, and suppose if I am applying CH3Cl, and which one has higher boiling point? So obviously this will have higher boiling point. Why? Because its molecular mass is very high. So here for carbon it is 12, for hydrogen it is 4. One hydrogen is 1, 4 hydrogen is 4, totally 16 is a molar mass. And here for one carbon it is 12, 3 hydrogen it is 3, and one chlorine it is 35.5. 15, 35, 50.5 gram per mole. So that's what the molar mass is so high. So when compared to this one, so it has higher boiling point. That's what it has a higher boiling point than that of its parental compound they give it.
So I
And
have a
one more
doubt.
thing. Yes, yes.
So what do we give more priority to, sir? Molar mass or the branching in such cases?
First, we have to give the priority to the molar mass, then we have to give it for branching. Okay.
Okay, sir.
I'll give you some examples. Say for example, CH3, CH2, CH2, Cl. This is 1-chloropropane. CH3, CHCl, CH3. But in this case, you just look at C3. How many hydrogen? 3, 5, 7. So H7Cl. Here also the same molar mass, C3H7Cl. So obviously the molar mass is same, almost equal. So if the molar mass is equal, then our next option is we have to check with the branching. Okay. So here the chlorine will be substituted in second question. That's what is coming under branching. So it has higher boiling point. So straight chain molecule have higher boiling point. This has low boiling point, okay, when compared to that thing. Okay. So likewise, we have to check. Most probably they will be given comparable molar masses only. Okay, comparable molar masses. So comparable molar masses in the sense, suppose if I'm taking some alkyl halide, so the same, almost the same molecular mass compound will be given, but the functional group is different. That time we have to check out the functional group also. Okay, suppose if we have a haloalkane and we have an alcohol, obviously alcohol will have higher molecule because of hydrogen bonding. We'll discuss later. And here, general question, usually the para isomers are having higher melting point as compared to ortho and meta isomers. Say for example, just para isomer in the sense haloarenes. Okay, so obviously molar mass will be very high. So the molar mass will be very high means most probably it will be just in the form of solids. Okay, so likewise that's what we are talking about the melting point. Yeah. It's solid in the sense melting point. Say for example here chlorine and here chlorine. This is a para chlorobenzene or para dichlorobenzene. And one more thing, this has higher boiling point than that of its ortho isomer. Say for example, this is a ortho isomer, and meta isomer we know that 1, 3rd position. So why para isomer has higher melting point? It has higher melting point. They said high melting point, but they are asking the reason. Okay, para isomers are higher, having higher melting point as compared to ortho and para isomers. What is the reason behind it? So the question is here it has a plane of symmetry. That's what it can perfectly packed in crystals. Okay. It can be perfectly packed in crystals. What is the plane of symmetry? So say for example, it is an assumption only. Okay, it is not the real one. It's an assumption. Say for example, if I'm taking para isomer here, one para isomer. If I want to pack it perfectly with nearby, so I have a molecule like this. It's very closely attached. It is nothing but there will be a gap. That's nothing but the force of attraction between them. Okay, the force of attraction between them is very strong because both are strongly attracted towards each other because they are having plane of symmetry. Okay, it does not disturb. But in the case of orthoisomer, if you look at Cl, and we can't place as much as close than that of this one. Here we have this gap is there. Okay, this gap will create some force of attraction between them to looser. Okay, it has a less force of attraction will be there when compared to this one. That is what this para isomer will have higher melting point than that of this one. Yeah. As usual, orthoisomer, meta isomers will disturb this, which will keep the more distances. That's what it has a lower melting point than that of para isomers. Okay. And next one is a solubility. Solubility, yes.
Sir, if they are given C3H7Cl and C3H7I, which will have more boiling point, sir? The molecular C3H7I.
Okay.
Cl and C3H7I, which will have more boiling point, sir?
C3H7Cl and one more thing.
I, sir. I or B or anything, sir.
I or Br. So obviously this will have higher boiling point. I will explain you. Okay. Fine.
The bond size also matters, sir.
Yeah. So no, it implies only molar mass. Molar mass will be very higher for this. So usually the order of boiling point we can say, in the case of alkyl halide, Ri has higher boiling point, then Br will be lesser one, and then RCl, then only Rf. This is the order of boiling point. because the molar mass will be very higher for iodine. So fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. So as in the case of atomic mass is getting increases when we go down the group. So here atomic mass, atomic number of fluorine is 9. So here 17, here 35, here 53 like that. Okay. So as the molar mass increases, moreover the size is also bigger. Okay. So here iodine is a bigger one. So Ri will absorb more number of Ri molecules. That's what it has more van der Waals force of attraction. So it can attract more number of Ri molecule towards it. That's what number of molar masses, number of molecules increases. As the number of molecule increases, molar mass will also get increased. But in case of RF, so it will be small in size, so it cannot attract much number of RFs. That's what molar mass will be very less, so boiling point will also be very less. Okay. And next one is the solubility. So usually we can say like dissolves like dissolves like. What is the meaning of like dissolves like? Which means that the polar molecule, polar solute can be dissolved in polar solvent. Okay. And the non-polar solute can be dissolved in non-polar solvent. That is what it is a like dissolves like. Say for example, I can't mix water with oil, but I can mix with alcohol with water. Okay, so alcohol is polar, water is polar. That's what they can mix with each other. But here, oil is non-polar, water is a polar molecule, so it does not match with each other. Okay, so like dissolves like. But here, according to the rule, our haloalkanes are X, you can say, or X. So we know that the halogens generally have higher electronegativity. That's what it has, like negative charge, it has like positive charge. Or water also, HOH. Usually it has like positive, here like negative. That much of charge is there. So definitely both must be mixed with each other, but unfortunately they are not miscible in water. Why? The reason is, so if you want to, the energy, that is the energy required to form a bond between Rx and water is too high. So moreover, the oxygen water, it has a hydrogen bonding also. The hydrogen bonding first it should break out. Then this will be clearing very easily because it's a haloalkane only. It's not a haloarine. If it is a haloarine, it may have some partial double bond characteristic. But here there is no such a kind of double bond characteristic of that are not there. That's what it can easily clease out. But here water is also having hydrogen bonding, so it can't break the bonding. Even though it breaks out hydrogen bonding, the energy required to form a bond between Rx as well as water will be very, very high. That's what it is immiscible. So usually lower alkyl halides are little soluble in water. Remaining members are insoluble in water. Generally, the solubility is insoluble. Yeah, we can say sparingly soluble in water, slight solubility in water. The question is, they will be asking question like this, means both are polar but immiscible in water. Why? So the reason is the energy required to form a bond between Rx as well as water is very high. Due to that reason, the solubility is very less. And next one is,
sir, what kind of interaction will happen between Rx and H2O, sir?
That means that is what it won't happen, because the hydrogen bonding, it can't break it as much as easier one. Okay, so even it is breaked out, there is no bond formation will be there. It required a higher bond association energy. They need some more amount of energy to form a bond. That's what. So the formation, the kind of bond is nothing but maybe it has some ionic bonding. Okay, but ionic bonding will not be proper here. Okay, that's what the energy A record is much more. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Next one is you can fill out the increasing order of boiling point. Increasing order of boiling point. So they will be given some compounds like bromomethane. Bromomethane. Next one is a bromoform. And next one is a chloromethane. And next one is a dibromomethane. You assume that this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, this is number 4, fourth molecule. Okay. Now you can tell me which one has higher boiling point.
Dibromomethane.
Dibromomethane, sure. So before writing all those things, we have to write the structure. That is CH3Br. CH3Br bromomethane. Bromoform CHBr3. Chloromethane CH3Cl. Dibromomethane CH2Br2. Now you can say which has higher boiling point?
So is it bromoform, sir?
Yeah, bromoform. So option 2 has higher boiling point than that of option 4. Am I right? Next one is whether it is chloromethane or bromomethane. Which one has higher boiling point?
Bromomethane.
Bromomethane.
So 1, then only 3. Okay. If you want to write the increasing order, you can write that.
Sir, how is 4 greater than 1, sir?
Sorry, why? 4 1. Fourth one, huh? Because it has 2 bromine atoms. Huh?
Sir, but it is branched, no, sir.
No. First thing we have to check it molar mass. Then only we have to give the preference for branching. Okay. The molar mass is very high, then we have to give the preference to molar mass. And next one is 2-chloropropane. Then, it's 1-chloropropane. 1-chloropropane. Isopropyl chloride. Isopropyl chloride. Then 1-chlorobutane. Which one has higher boiling point? 1, 2, 3. Yes.
So first one, chlorobutane has higher.
1-chlorobutane. Very good. So third
Because
one
it has
is,
more molar mass.
yeah, very nice. Molar mass will be very high. Then next one.
Chloropropane, sir.
And then chloropropane because it's not
1 chloro.
branched.
Yeah, 1-chloropropane.
And then it's branched, so iso.
Okay. So likewise it's going. And next one is chemical properties. So that's all about the physical properties. The next one is the chemical properties. So chemical properties usually here haloalkanes are generally involved in these 3 kind of reactions. One is nucleophilic substitution reaction. Nucleophilic substitution reaction. And second one is elimination reaction. Elimination reaction. And third one is reaction with the metals. Okay. So that's all about only for haloalkanes. Okay. Haloalkanes, not for haloarenes, only for haloalkanes. Okay. So usually, what do you mean by nucleophilic? Nucleophilic substitution reaction, we have 2 more categories. What is that? SN1 reaction, SN2 reaction. And elimination reaction, we have 2 more categories, E1 reaction and E2 reaction. Okay. So first one is a nucleophilic substitution reaction. Nucleophilic substitution reaction. What do you mean by nucleophile?
Proton loving
Sorry.
So it'll attract more protons to us.
More proton to us. Very nice. So the nucleo means nucleus. Phile means attraction. So it attracts nucleus. Nucleus always have positive charge. So positive charge attracting species. So that must have negative charge.
Negative.
Okay. Nucleophiles may be negative charge species. Some nucleophiles may not have any charge. Okay, these are all called the neutral nucleophiles, or we can say weak nucleophiles. If the nucleophile will have charge, they will be called as a strong nucleophile. Sorry. So initially, a nucleophile reacts with the haloalkane having a partial positive charged carbon. Say, for example, our haloalkane will be like this, and our nucleophile will go and attack this carbon because this carbon is having partial positive charge. Why? Because it is attached with a highly electronegative atom. So the nucleophile will go and attack this, and which will cleave this bond. So our halogen will be acting as a better leaving group. So the nucleophile will form a bond between carbon and X minus will left out. This kind of reaction will be taken place in the case of nucleophilic substitution reaction. So because it also has negative charge, it also has negative charge. So instead of this X minus, this nucleophile will coming. Both are nucleophiles. So that's what it is called as nucleophilic substitution reaction. In general, let's have some nucleophiles. Or X, I can take common example. It may be reacting with some of the nucleophiles. Say for example, OH minus. It can be given from. It may be given from water. Okay, may be given from water. It forms ROH along with that X minus. Or otherwise, it can be obtained from NaOH, aqueous NaOH. So it forms ROH again. It forms X minus. So here, water is a weak nucleophile. OH minus is a strong nucleophile. That's the difference. And next one is, here it may be reacting with R-O. It may be obtained from NaOR, alkoxide. Maybe obtained from alkoxide. So it forms a ROR dash along with that X minus. If it is nucleophile will be I minus, then I will get Ri as my product along with the X minus. It can be, it may be obtained from NaI or Ki. So these are all the molecules. If it is reacted with amine, then it forms RNH2 along with that X minus. In all the cases, X minus will come out. And it may be reacted with CN minus nucleophile. It can be obtained from KCN. So then it forms RCN. But if it is attacking with, if it is obtained from AgCN, then it forms RNC. So here, cyanide is getting formed. So here, generally we can say nitriles. Okay, nitriles. In organic chemistry, we can say nitriles. Because the cyanide, if it is attached with the metal, then it has high negative charge. But if it is attached with a non-metal like a carbon, it will be called as nitriles. So here, if it is obtained from CN is obtained from AgCN, then it forms isocyanide. I will tell you why it is isocyanide. And next one is it may be react with ONO. ONO, it may be obtained from KNO2 potassium nitrite. It forms RONO. And if it is obtained with AgON double bond O, so I can get RNO2. And here, if it is obtained from lithium aluminum hydride, if it reacts with lithium, it produces usually hydride ion. So then hydride ion will exchange with this. RH will be the product. In all the cases, X minus will come out. So this is what the nucleophilic substitution reaction will be. And I will explain you why it comes. It forms.
Sir, can you move a little up, sir? I have to copy.
Okay. Okay. Oh, you need to copy. No, you know, you don't worry. I will send you the material. Okay. He will share you. Okay. From today class itself, I will share the material. Okay. Whatever I written that, I will share it. Okay. Because it is impossible to manage, I think so. Am I right? Yeah, you just make a copy. Shall we? I'll send you the material, man. We don't want to waste our time.
So what's the last one, sir, you've written?
Last one. Which one? This one, huh?
Yes, sir, the last
Okay.
one.
Lithium aluminum hydride. It's a
Okay,
reducing
sir.
agent. Okay. And and here we need to know something like that. Ambient nucleophile. Ambient nucleophile. What do you mean by ambient nucleophile? Ambient amphibians. You know, amphibians. What do you mean by amphibians? Good example is frog. Frog is a good example for amphibians. It can survive both in land as well as water. But at a point of time, either it can survive in land or water. Okay. So it cannot survive both in land as well as water at the same point of time. Likewise, our nucleophile will also have two nucleophilic sites. Nucleophilic sites are there. Sites are there. But at a point of time, any one can involve in attack. Involve in attack. Okay, that is what it has. Two nucleophilic center is there, but out of which only one is getting attacked. One is going to attack. Okay. So that is what is ambient nucleophile. Carbon triple bond N. CN is there. If the bond is getting break, carbon will get 2 electron, and here N and negative charge will be. And now you can look at here, both are having capacity. Here, nitrogen will have a donating capacity. Now, carbon will have a donating capacity. Okay, because both are what is that? You can say it's resonating structure. You can say so. Carbon will also having attacking. Carbon atom will be an attacking agent. Otherwise, nitrogen atom will be attacking agent. If carbon attacks, it forms cyanides. If carbon attacks, it forms cyanides. If nitrogen attacks, it forms isocyanides. Okay. Carbon attacks, it forms cyanides. If nitrogen attacks, it forms isocyanides. Okay. Next one is.
Sir, how to find which attacks at a point of time, sir? Carbon or nitrogen?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I'll explain. Here, RX, if it is attached, if KCN is reacting. So if KCN is used with the reaction of RX, then it forms RCN with KX. But here RX, if it is CN is obtained from AgCN, then it forms RNC. Along with that, some product like AgX. Okay. AgX is formed. Okay. So RNC, why it is formed? Because here KCN, it's an ionic compound. KCN is ionic compound, but AgCN is a covalent compound. Okay. If it is a covalent compound, means the carbon is strongly attracted with silver, so it can't donate electron. At that point of time, nitrogen will donate electron. By the way, it can form a bond between alkyl group. That's what it forms, isocyanides. Okay. So if it is a covalent, if it is a covalent, not free to attack. So nitrogen atom Nitrogen atom is a donor atom. Donor atom. So nitrogen will donate electrons so that it can form a bond with alkyl group. So it forms isocyanates as a product. Okay. And next one is very, very important thing, SN1 reaction, nucleophilic substitution reaction. So here first category is SN1 reaction. SN1. It's nothing but a unimolecular nucleophilic substitution reaction. So here 1 stands for unimolecular, N stands for nucleophilic, and S stands for substitution reaction. Okay, MBBS Mari. Okay.
So can you
So
repeat, sir?
nucleophilic. Sorry.
Can you repeat, sir?
Yeah.
Unimolecular.
Unimolecular. Okay, I'll explain you completely. Nucleophilic substitution reaction. Okay. So here 1 stands for unimolecular, and the N stands for nucleophilic, and S stands for substitution reaction. Okay. So here, if unimolecular nucleophilic substitution reaction wants to take place, it needs to satisfy some conditions. What are all the conditions? Let's check one by one. The first condition is the reaction will be very faster in 3-degree alkyl halides. 3-degree alkyl halides. The reaction will be very faster. And it involves in two-step process. Okay, two-step process. And third one is we have to use a protic solvent. That is protic solvent. And fourth one is nucleophile strength is not important or not required. Even weak nucleophile is enough to conduct SN1 reaction. Your rate of reaction, ROR, you can write it as rate of reaction. Rate of reaction depends only on substrate. Substrate is nothing but a reactant. Reactant is otherwise called as substrate. And here we are getting a product. So we can get two type of product. One is inversion and retention product is obtained. We are getting inversion as well as retention product. Let's write first of all, first our condition is 3-degree alkyl halide. Yes, we can write the 3-degree alkyl halide. Step 1. Step 1. CH3C.
Sir,
Yes.
explain what is protic solvent, sir?
Yeah, I'll explain you one by one. Wait. Cl, SCl. And this reaction will be conducted in presence of first protic solvent. Protic solvent. The solvent which donate protons, H plus ions. The solvent which can provide H plus ion to the reactant. Okay, that is called a protic solvent. Even we can take water is a protic solvent. Acetic acid is a protic solvent. Likewise, we can take any number of protic solvent, even HCl, H2SO4, everything is a protic solvent. Okay. So the protic solvent will be taken. The protic solvent will flux already halogen, which is highly electronegative, am I right? So it has a slight negative charge. So it try to attract this protic solvent and they become HCl. They removed as HCl. Okay, that's the first step. So if it is the 2 electrons will be taken by this chlorine, so that's what it got positive charge here. So now my product is, I can get CH3, C, CH3, here also CH3, here I get positive charge. This is what I got, carbocation. carbocation. We know that it is a 3-degree carbocation. Am I right? So the carbocation, carbon you have to look at. So directly attached with 1, 2, 3, 3 carbon atoms. So it is 3-degree carbocation. So 3-degree carbocation are much reactive. We know that. So once the nucleophile will come, suddenly attract to form a bond. Okay. So our step 2. Look at the step 2. In the step 2, our carbocation CH3, C, here also CH3, here also CH3. Here positive charge is there. Our nucleophile is what? I can take any number of any nucleophile, like for example OH minus. If I'm taken OH minus as example nucleophile. So now the nucleophile have a 2 chance of attacking. So it's not to be attacked; it's just attracting. You just look at. So if suppose there is no positive charge here, there is no positive charge, the nucleophile it's not going to attack. Okay, it's just attracting towards each other. Both are attracting. Okay, it has positive charge, so it can easily attract the negative charge. That will happen if the nucleophile is formed. So that is what we are taking nucleophile, weak nucleophile. Nucleophile strength is not important because nucleophile is not going to attack. It's just going to attract the positive charge formed already. Okay. In already formed positive charge carbocation, the nucleophile is just going to attract. Okay, that's what we are taken weak nucleophile. So how it is a weak nucleophile? Because of protic solvent only, it is weak nucleophile. I will explain you why it is. So this has a 2 chance of attacking. Nucleophile will attack this side, front side, or it can attack from the back side also. Okay. So if it attacks from the front side, what kind of product it forms? I'll get this kind of product. CH3, C, CH3, here also CH3, here OH is up and down. This is what a front side attack. If the nucleophile attacks back side, then what will be my product? OH, here C, CH3, CH3, here also CH3. Okay. Now we have to look at one more thing. So here, 3D alkyl halide used. Yes, it's a 2-step process. Yes, protic solvent used. I explain you why we used the protic solvent. I'll explain you later. The nucleophile strength is not important. Yes, because it's just going to attract. And rate of reaction, the next one. It gives inversion as well as retention product. Okay. So inversion retention product means the configuration should be retained. So for example, here our Cl is attached in the right side of the substrate or reactant. Same side, if nucleophile is attached, then it is called as retention product. This is called retention product. Cl minus will be attached in right side, but OH will be attached in left side. That's what it is, inversion product. Okay. Are you able to understand this?
Again, sir.
Yeah. Cl is attached in the right side of the molecule. This is the molecule reactant or substrate. In that right side of that, we have chlorine. At the same time, same place, instead of that Cl, one nucleophile will be attached. That is OH minus. The nucleophile is OH. The OH will be attached here. Okay. That's what it retains the configuration. Okay. Configuration in the sense 3-dimensional spatial arrangement will be similar, looks like to be a, what is that, substrate. Okay. That's what it is, a retention product. Exact opposite is that of, it will be attached here. So it is inversion product. I can get inversion product. So I can get both inversion as well as retention product. This also solved. And one more thing. So you may have doubt. So why in second step nucleophile is getting attached? Why can't it attack in the first step itself? Nucleophile may attack from the first step itself. If it attacks on the first step itself, so here it has, suppose nucleophile has negative charge, Cl will also have some partial negative charge. So both are negative. So direct attack is not possible. So repulsion is there. That is the first reason. Okay. So front side attack is not possible. Even it may attack from the back side now. It may attack from the back side also. It may attack from the back side also, but this is also not possible here. Why this is not possible? Because it will be surrounded by a bulkier groups. These are all creating a steric hindrance, okay, which is called steric hindrance. Steric hindrance. The bulkier group will not allow the nucleophile to attack the carbon. Okay, the bulkier groups like CH3 groups will not allow the nucleophile to attack the carbon. Which carbon? This functional star carbon. Okay, so the carbon cannot be attacked because of that steric hindrance or bulkier group or bulkiness of the molecule. That's what the nucleophile will not attack in the first step. So our aim is to attack with the nucleophile by after creating this carbocation. That is what we use the protic solvent. So now we have to check what is the role of protic solvent. So here, suppose one nucleophile is here. You assume that one nucleophile is here. This is a nucleophile. So nucleophile may have charge or may not have charge. So here, suppose if I'm taking a strong nucleophile also, the nucleophile will become a weak one in presence of protic solvent. How it happens? So if it want to donate electron, if it is donating electron, then only it acts as a nucleophile. We know that. Okay. Here, suppose if I'm taking water as a protic solvent. Okay. Water as a protic solvent. Here also water molecule will be there. Okay. So we know that here nucleophile has negative charge, and here what about the hydrogen? It has slight positive charge because it has slight negative charge. Slight negative, negative, slight positive, slight positive. Also slight negative, negative, slight positive, slight positive, slight positive, slight positive. Here slight negative. Now you assume that this positive charge, much positive charges are attracting this nucleophile, which form a cage-like structure. That's what the nucleophilic charge is getting depressed, or the nucleophile charge is getting decreased. Then it will not be acting as a nucleophile. The nucleophile strength is getting decreases.
Sir, why does the nucleophile strength need to be decreased, sir?
Because we can't able to attack even if it is a strong nucleophile. Even if it is a strong nucleophile, we can't attack by in the first step itself. Okay, because there is no chance of attacking front side and also back side. Why? In the front side, the repulsion will be there because the halogen is there, Cl is there, and nucleophile is there. Both are having similar charges, same charges repel with each other. And one more thing, in the backside we can have a chance, but backside also the attack is not possible because of steric hindrance. The bulkier groups are there. The bulkier groups will not allow the nucleophile to attack. Okay, that's what we need to reduce the strength of nucleophile in presence of protic solvent. If you use a protic solvent, the nucleophile strength is getting reduced, and at the same time, the protic solvent will cleave this Cl minus also, which creates carbocation. Once the carbocation is getting formed, there will be a positive charge is getting created. Our nucleophile is straight away, even though it doesn't have a charge, it can easily attract it towards to that. Okay. Okay, that is what we are using protic solvent. Okay, so our aim is satisfied, I think so. So 3-degree alkyl halide we use because the rate of reaction will be very faster in 3-degree only. Okay, because here two-step reaction. First step is slow step. It is a slow step and it is a fast step. Okay, first step is a slow step. Second step is a fast step. So initially we know that RDS in the sense a rate determining step. So whenever if the reaction is completing in multiple steps, suppose if it has a two-step reaction or three-step reaction. Second step will be a slow step. Then that will determine the rate of reaction. That means how fast the rate of reaction, how fast the reaction is completing. So it entirely depends on the second step because that is a slow step. Okay. So usually the slow step will determine the rate of reaction, and fast step which will not be used for determining rate of reaction. I think so you understand. So it's a two-step process. Protic-Sol will be used. Nucleophile strength is not important. And next one is the rate of reaction depends only on substrate. Yes, this is very important because we use the substrate. Substrate is nothing but reactant, I said. Okay, so I can write it here. CH3, C, CH3, here CH3, here Cl. So the rate of reaction entirely depends on reactant, we said. Why? Because how fast the Cl minus will come out from the reaction, that entirely depends on the rate of reaction. Okay. If it comes faster, the rate of reaction will be very fast. If it comes slower, the rate of reaction will be very less or very slow. Okay. So it entirely depends on rate of reaction. So rate of reaction depends only on substrate. Okay. That is what is called as unimolecular reaction because only one molecule dependent. Okay. One molecule dependent. So we can discuss these things very clearly in kinetic step. Okay. And next one is rate of reaction. Rate of reaction. So we can put a graph between time as well as rate of reaction. So as the time increases, the rate of reaction, well, not to be time, it may be a concentration of reactant. Concentration of reactant. If we increase the concentration of a reactant, the rate of reaction will also getting increases because it depends on rate of reaction. Rate of reaction depends on substrate. Okay. If we increase the concentration, the rate of reaction will also get increases. Suppose if we plot a graph between these two things, concentration of nucleophile, and also rate of reaction. If you change the concentration, if you increase the concentration, there is no change in rate of reaction because it does not depend on rate of reaction. Okay. Rate of reaction does not depend on nucleophile, so that even if you change the concentration of reactant, concentration of nucleophile, there is no determinant. If you change the concentration, there is no change in rate of reaction because it does not depend on rate of reaction. Okay, that's all about SN1 reaction. Are you clear? Are you clear, or do you have any doubt on this?
So clear, sir.
Okay, fine, nice. Then same concept will be applied for SN2 reaction, but something different.
Sir?
Yes.
So is there a change in orientation in the SN1 reaction, sir?
Sorry?
Sir, is there any orientation change in the SN1 reaction?
Yes. That's what I got inversion as well as retention product. Okay. Retention inversion product means the orientation will be changes.
Sir, so in the exam you have to write both the products, right, sir?
Yeah, we have to write both inversion as well as retention. Next one is the SN2 reaction. SN2. It's nothing but a bimolecular nucleophilic substitution. Yes. So usually we know that 2 stands for bimolecular, and N stands for nucleophilic, and S stands for substitution reaction. So here also there will be some conditions. What are all the conditions? Let's check. The first condition is there we used 3-degree alkyl halides. here we are going to use 1 degree alkyl halide. Okay. 1 degree alkyl halides. Because the rate of reaction will be very much faster in 1 degree alkyl halide for SN2. Okay. And here we use a aprotic solvent. Aprotic solvent we should use. And it is a single step process, one step process. It is a SN1 two-step process, SN2 one-step process. One-step process. And next one is rate of reaction depends on both substrate, that means a reactant, and nucleophile. Okay, it depends on both things. And nucleophile strength is important, which means that we have to use strong nucleophile. That's what we are using aprotic solvent. Okay. In aprotic solvent, the nucleophile will not form any cage-like structure. That's what nucleophile will be in the form of nucleophile. It can easily attack. In the first step itself, the reaction wall. That's what it's one-step process. And here, only inversion product. Only inversion product is applied. That's much important, very much important. Let's take 1 degree alkyl halide. Say for example, CH3, C, here H, here H, here Cl. Okay. In the first step itself, the nucleophile will come and attack. Because we use the aprotic solvent now. Aprotic solvent will not form any cage-like structure. That's what the nucleophile will not lose their ability. So it will be acting as a strong nucleophile. Here also the front side attack is not possible because it has like negative charge, it has like positive charge. So the nucleophile always has to attack the alpha carbon. Okay, it has to attack alpha carbon. So now alpha carbon is positive, but it cannot be attacked from the front side because Cl will have highly electronegative. That's what both are repelling with each other. But here, backside it can attack. How it can attack from the backside? Because only one side is occupied by bulky group, another sides are small groups. That's what the nucleophile or the molecule will allow the nucleophile to attack. Okay, so here the nucleophile will attack from the backside only, not in the case of front side. Front side, as usual, there is no possibility of attacking front side because of charges, similar charges. But it can attack from the back side because of that less steric hindrance. So in SN2 reaction, steric hindrance is not favored. Steric hindrance should not be there in the reaction. Okay. So the nucleophile will go and attack from the back side. Then my product will be getting formed. So I can write the reactant one more time because the reaction will happen in a single step. CH3, C, H. Here also one H. Here, suppose if I am taking a nucleophile here, the nucleophile will come and attack from the back side. At the same time, the nucleophile will cleave this Cl bond. So C-Cl bond is getting cleaved. Okay. And COH bond is getting formed. And it always forms on the back side. That's what it can create inversion product. So what is my product? OH is here, then C, here H, and here it is CH3. Okay. So I got inverted product because chlorine is present in the right side, exact opposite side, the nucleophile is getting attached. So I got inversion product. Only inversion is possible. So that is what the rate, because this is a rate determining step, even a single step reaction. So both are taking place simultaneously. Both, that means CCl bond cleavage and COH bond formation, both are taking place simultaneously. So if it completely forms a bond, it completely cleaves the bond. It completely forms the bond, it completely cleaves the bond, and it will go as better leaving group. Okay, so here the thing, So 1 degree alkyl halide, aprotic solvent we use. That's what the nucleophile will be in a strong one. So it can attack from the first step itself, and that's what's a one-step process. And nucleophile strength is much important. And only inversion product I can apply. And what about the rate of reaction? Because if the slow step is a rate determining step. Here only one step is there. That step is a slow step. That step is a slow step. That's a rate determining step. In the rate determining, we have two molecules are involved as nucleophile as well as substrate. Both are involving in the reaction. Okay. So if we increase the rate of reaction of a reactant as well as nucleophile, the rate of reaction will getting increased. Okay. So here, if we plot a graph between these two things, that is a concentration of reactant or substrate. Here, rate of reaction will be taken. Rate of reaction will be taken. So what about that rate? So once we increase the concentration of reactant, the rate of reaction will also get increased. Suppose if you concentration of nucleophile, if you increase the concentration of nucleophile, the rate will also getting increases. Why? Because it depends on both the things. So the rate of reaction depend on nucleophile concentration as well as the reactant concentration. If you increase the concentration of reactant as well as nucleophile, the rate of reaction will getting increases. Okay. So the rate of reaction will be affected because of both. Okay. One more thing. So let me conclude. That is SN1 reaction and SN2 reaction. SN1, what is that SN1? So the 3 degree alkyl halide will be a faster one, and because the steric hindrance is must here. That's what 3 degree alkyl halide will reacting faster, and then 2 degree, then 1 degree. For SN2, steric hindrance should not be there. That's what we are taking 1 degree alkyl halide, then 2 degree, then 3 degree. But your question may arise. So what about the 2 degree, sir? The 2 degree will have almost average reactivity in both SN1 as well as SN2. It entirely depends on solvent. If you use a protic solvent, the SN1 is preferable for 2 degree. Okay. So if you use 2 degree reactant, okay, 2 degree reactant. So which reaction will be faster, SN1 or SN2? That entirely depends on solvent what we are taking. Suppose if I am taking protic solvent, the SN1 will be faster. If I am taking aprotic solvent, the SN2 will be faster. Okay, it entirely depends on solvent. 2 degree generally average rate of reaction in both SN1 and SN2. So if you want to find out the rate of reaction exactly, so you have to look at the solvent. If the protic solvent is used, SN1 is preferred. If aprotic solvent is used, SN2 is preferred. Okay, is that clear?
Sir, but if you use aprotic solvent in SN1, the reaction won't occur, no, sir. Then on what basis we can compare the both, sir?
So if protic solvent is used, the nucleophile strength is getting reduces. Once the nucleophile strength is getting reduces, it involves in two-step process. There will be a formation of carbocation is there. So here there will be a formation of carbocation. Here there is no formation of carbocation. No formation of carbocation. Here less steric hindrance is preferred. Less steric hindrance will create. Okay, if you use a protic solvent, so here 2 degree reactant is there. We are going to use a nucleophile. If nucleophile, if it attacks in first step, it forms SN1. Sorry, SN2. If it is involved in second step, it forms SN1. So the step which is going to attack is entirely decided by the solvent what we are taking. Suppose if you use protic solvent, the nucleophile strength is getting decreases. If it decreases, it tries to form carbocation. The reactant will try to form carbocation. After that, nucleophile is just getting attracted. But in the case of if you use protic solvent, aprotic solvent, the nucleophile will be a stronger one. So it can directly go and attack from the backside of the reactant to form a inversion product.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, if there is no carbocation formed in SN2, then how does the nucleophile gets attached to the alpha carbon? Because we know that the carbon halogen bond is polar in nature, so carbon will carry a partially negative charge. No, sir. So how will
It's
that
not like
nucleophile?
that. That's what I told you. That's what I told you. Even if the charge is very less, okay, so the charge is getting decreased, it's not completely vanished. Nucleophile strength is getting decreased, as I told. The nucleophile will not become acting as a nucleophile. Okay, so it will be acting as a nucleophile, but the strength is getting decreases. Okay, the nucleophile strength is getting decreased by the protection. Is that clear?
Okay, sir.
Okay, fine. So, and we have to solve some question like this. That means these are all the compulsory questions they are asking in this category SN1, SN2 reaction. So, as we know that if it is SN2, there will be a order will be 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree. If it is SN1, 3 degree, 2 degree, 1 degree. Okay. So, let me solve. So, if I'm having a compound like this, what is the name of this compound? Cycloic cell chloride. This is methyl chloromethyl cyclohexane. Okay, right. This kind of product I can obtain. So here, which one will undergo SN1 faster here? SN1, where the reaction rate will be faster. Whether in this first compound or it is in second compound.
Second compound, sir.
SN1. SN1, what is the order of reactivity? If it is a SN1, 3 degree, 2 degree, 1 degree. If it is
Yes,
a
sir. So second
SN2,
one.
1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree. What about the degree? Whether it is a 3 degree?
Yes, sir.
How it will be 3 degree? So 1 degree, na? Functional group, it's a star carbon, they're attached with only one carbon. It is 1 degree.
Sorry, sir. I thought about the other carbon.
Okay, no problem. So here functional group, and this is a star carbon. Now star carbon attached with the two different carbon. One more thing. So it is a 2 degree. Okay. Star carbon is 2 degree. So here SN1 reaction, which one is faster? Molecule 1 is faster, then molecule 2 is lesser. Okay. If suppose the molecule like yes.
Sir, we can't say that the first compound undergoes SN1, no, sir, without the solvent.
Sorry.
Sir, you told that if the 2 degree carbon reacts with
The question is, yeah. The question is asking, what the question is asking, which one is faster? SN1, both are involving in SN1. Okay. Which one is faster?
Okay, sir.
So according to that, 1 degree will be faster in SN1. That's what. And the next one is, suppose if I'm using iodine here, if I'm using chlorine here, where SN1 reaction, where it will be faster? SN1. Generally, SN1 means 3 to 1. But here, how I can write this molecule? CH3, CH2, 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 I. Here, CH3, CH2, 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 Cl. SN1 means 3 degree, the SN1 will be faster, but they are given both are 1 degree. Both are 1 degree, but they're asking the faster rate. That's what we have to look at. So here, similarity you have to look at. So the similar group is there. So only difference is halogen. Here iodine, here chlorine. Which one will react faster? Is it iodine or chlorine?
Iodine react faster.
Iodine will react faster because the bond length is much higher for carbon iodine bond and carbon chlorine bond. Carbon chlorine in the sense suppose if you look at like this, and carbon, chlorine here, carbon iodine, the bond length is much higher, bond length is lower. Bond length is lower means we can easily break it, but we can't break it easily. That's what the iodine will be a better leaving group. That's what, which one reacts faster? This one reacts faster. Okay. And one more thing I can give you.
SN2 also it will be the same answer, right, sir?
SN2 exact reverse. If you want to find out SN2, it's exact reverse. Okay. So for this molecule, you can find out SN2. SN2 for this first one. Exactly reverse of this. 2 and 1. Here you just 1 and 2. So SN1 is 1 and 2. And SN2 is what? SN2 is 2 and 1. Okay. Okay. So here, same SN1 and SN2 order you have to predict. Order we have to find out. So here the molecule given CH3, CH2, CH2, CH2Br. And next one is CH3, CH2, CHBr, CH3. And next one is CH3, C, CH3, CH3, here Br. And CH3, C, CH3, H, CH2Br. Almost all are isomers because everything is having same molar mass. Okay. Now we need to check out SN1 and SN2 reaction. SN1, we know that actually SN1, yes, N should be suffix and 1 is here. So SN1, since we know that order of reactivity 3 degree, 2 degree, then 1 degree. SN2 is that 1 degree, 2 degree, then 3 degree. We'll assume that this is a compound 1, this is a compound 2, this is a compound 3, this is a compound 4. Now you can tell me what about SN1 order?
3, 2, 4, 1, sir.
Yes, N1. So what about that order? 3 will be faster. Am I right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then 2, 4, 1. Is that right? So 3 degree should be there. Yes, 3 will be 3 degree. So we have to find out the degree. This is primary. This is secondary. This is tertiary. This is also primary. Okay. So now we have to look at that's a 3 degree. Yes. Then second compound 2 degree. Okay. And what about this? This also having 1 degree. This also having 1 degree. But it has branching is there. Steric hindrance is there. Okay. So usually which need a steric hindrance. SN1 means which needs steric hindrance. That's what. Even it is 1 degree. This has third place and this has fourth place. Okay. It's a branch without any branch. Side chain is there. What about SN2 order? SN2 is exact reverse. 1, then 4, 2, then 3. Is that clear? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Clear, sir.
Yeah. Okay, fine. And one more example you can solve here. So C6H5 CH2Br and C6H5 CH C6H5Br. C6H5 CH CH3Br. Your C6H5 C CH3 C6H5Br. So what about SN1 order? So you just assume that this is compound 1, 2, 3, 4. What about SN1 order?
So it's a 4, 2, 3, 1, sir.
4, 2, 3, 1. 4, then 2, then 3, then 1. Yes. SN2 exactly is 1, 3, then 2, then 4. Okay. 2, 1, 4. Sorry, 4. Okay. And next one is we have to look at the optical isomerism. This is much important topic.
I have a doubt actually.
Yes, yes, please. Yes,
Does
yes,
a
yes.
double bond or triple bond being present affect it, sir?
Where?
Anywhere, like if a double bond or triple bond is there, will it affect?
Yeah, definitely it may affect. It may affect. But generally, nucleophilic substitution reaction won't happen on the double bonded carbon. So that's what we don't worry about that. Okay.
Okay.
Here, halogen is there, and in this carbon only the nucleophile is getting attached. Okay. Same, the bromine will goes up and some nucleophile will come off. Okay. That's what we don't need to worry about the double bonds.
Okay, sir, I understood.
Very nice. And just a minute, it's hanging. And next one is the optical isomerism. Optical isomerism. Optical activity. If you want to check out whether the molecule is optically active or not, they have to check it out these two things, chiral and achiral. Okay. What do you mean by chiral and chirality? They're all
Original image or identical.
yeah. Very nice, very nice. They're all non-superimposable on its mirror image. Mirror image. They're all non-superimposable on its mirror image. But if it is chiral, they're all superimposable on its mirror image. Superimposable on its mirror image. And if you want to find out the chirality and the achirality, just a minute. We just assume that this is a chiral and achiral objects. So if your hand, left hand, here it is right hand. Okay. If suppose if you placed near to the mirror, so it's exact reverse of that. Okay. But if you are placing these finger into this hand into this hand, now our that means small finger is here, and for another finger is here, another hand is here. That's what it's not perfectly matching with this. The thumbs and little fingers are not matching exactly. Okay, that is what it is called the chiral images or chiral objects. Suppose if you taken a bottle, this bottle image will be exactly, if you match this, it will be perfectly matched. Okay, you're matching this image on this image, so it will be perfectly matching. So if it is superimposable on its mirror images, okay, then it is called as achiral molecule. This is a achiral molecule, this is a chiral molecule. Okay, but if it is an image, we can identify. But if you want to find out the chirality in organic compound, what you can do? So we have to check with that chiral carbon. Okay, chiral carbon. Say for example, organic compound generally made of carbon. So carbon is there. So 4 different groups. One group is here, another group is here, another group is here, another group is here. Everything is different group. If groups, 4 groups attached atom or a group of atom, okay, attached to the carbon is different. Everything is different. everything is different, then it is called as a chiral molecule. Okay. If any one of the group is same, then it is coming under achirality. So for example, COM1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Suppose one group is here, same group is anywhere else. It may here, what else may be. Okay. Wherever else it may be there. And here, if the two groups are three different groups, but one group is same group. Okay. That's what it is, achiral molecule. Achiral molecule. Okay. Okay. So here, if four groups are attached different in carbon, then it is called as chiral molecule. If it is achiral, then it is if any one of the group is same, then it is called as achiral molecule. And then we have to check the optical activity. So before checking the optical activity, we need to know about the important concept, that is plane polarized light. Plane polarized light. Simply we can say PPL. Okay. PPL. So here the optical activity can be derived in the from the interaction of chiral molecule with the plane polarized light. Okay. Optical activity is derived from the interaction of chiral molecule with PPL, plane polarized light. So how the plane polarized light is rotating when it is passed into that molecule. That is what it shows, the optical activity. So optical activity, there will be interaction between the chiral molecule and the plane polarized light. Okay, there it creates optical activity. Whether it is optically active or not, we can check it by using of passing plane polarized light to the compound. Okay. So here, just we have taken a light. So here it is a light source. You assume that it is a light source. Light, we know that multi-directional. Okay, multi-directional. So in each and every direction, the light will be passed. Now, just we are passing the light into the filter. Just I'm taking a filter. The filter will allows only one directional light. Okay, through this. Okay, say for example, it will allow only these light. Sorry, just a minute. It can allow only this directional light. Okay, remaining this direction, or any other this direction will be filtered by this filter. Okay, only it can allow this kind of direction light. So say for example, just for the understanding, we are taken like this. Okay, and now this light will be taken. So the light orientation will be like this. And now this light will be passed to the compound 1 and also compound 2. So what is a compound? Say for example, suppose if I'm taking some molecule, like 4 different groups, any molecule you can take. H, COOH, here it is Cl, here it is CH3. Just for the example, just I'm taking this molecule. Just I'm having a beaker. In that beaker, I have compound 1, which is have this kind of orientation. Right side we have Cl, left side COOH, top hydrogen, bottom methyl group. Second molecule. What is the second molecule? The only difference between the first and second molecule is orientation. CH, here CH3. Here COOH, here Cl. Just for the assumption I'm taking, okay? I'm taking this kind of molecule, but only orientation difference is chlorine in the first molecule, it is present in right side. Left side COOH. But in the second molecule, chlorine, which is present in left side, COOH will be on right side. Now the plane polarized light will be passed to this direction. compound 1. It may be rotate. Okay. So we don't know whether it is rotating right side or left side. That is experimentally we have to find out. Okay. Just for the assumption, I'm saying, suppose this light can be rotated in the clockwise direction. Clockwise direction in the sense the direction of light will be like this. Okay. Now it getting rotated like this. So it can be tilted like this. Some angle is getting tilted. Okay. Suppose if it is passed to the compound 2, it will rotate the light to the anti-clockwise direction. Anti-clockwise direction means the light will be rotated like this. Okay. Anti-clockwise direction, the light will be rotated like this. Is that clear? Is that clear? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the plane polarized light, it's a unidirectional light, we can say. Otherwise, single direction light, other can be filtered by filter. And the light will be passed to the compound 1. It can rotate the light towards to some clockwise direction. And if it is passed to the compound 2, it will rotate the light towards to anti-clockwise direction. So the rotation of light will be like this. Okay. So this is what this is. It's an optical activity. So yes, please.
So you can explain what is that filter, sir?
What is that filter? So we can
Sir.
use any of the filter, like prism. We can use prism. We can use. Okay. So if you pass the light through the filter, it can filter only one directional light. Okay, which will not allow the other directional light. Okay. So the filters will be working. That means the filters will be arranged like that. Okay. So it can allow only one directional light. So if you pass a light towards to that, it will allow one directional light like this. It may be like this, or it may be like this, or it may be like this, or it may be like this, in any direction. Just for the assumption, I'm taking this one. Okay. It can allow any directional light. Okay. Here
I
if
have a-
light, yes.
So what decides whether the compound be rotated clockwise or anti-clockwise?
What? Sorry.
Decides whether the compound will be rotated clockwise or anti-clockwise.
That is the orientation. Orientation of molecule will decide whether it is rotating right side or left side. Okay, that
So
can
why
be
is
identified
one
by
being
the,
rotated clockwise, sir?
sorry.
Why is
Sorry,
one
I
being
can-
rotated clockwise?
No, it's not like that. That's what I told you. Whether it may be 1 or 2. Okay, whatever it may be. Okay, just for the example I'm taken. We have to find out experimentally.
Okay, sir.
Not going to say 1 is rotating right side, 2 is rotating left side. Okay, it is experimentally we have to find out.
Okay, sir. I understood.
Sir, can you say factors, sir?
Sorry, I can't get it clearly.
Factors affecting the rotation, sir. Rotation, whether it is clockwise or anti-clockwise.
Yeah. So that may be based on light source, based on filter what we have taken, based on the compound. If suppose if you are not taking chiral molecule, then it won't rotate anything. Okay, we have to take chiral molecules. Okay, these kind of things. Most probably liquids, or we have to use some solvents to dissolve that. Okay, so particularly organic compounds generally we can use for optical activity. It can give some optical activity, except the colloids. Colloids sometimes it may give optical activity. Sometimes it may not give optical activity. Some colloids will not give optical activity. Okay. And so suppose the light is rotating on right side. That means clockwise direction. Clockwise direction. Then it is called as dextrorotator. Dextrorotator. If it is rotating left side, or it may be anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise. It may be called as levorotator. Levorotatory. Okay, extrarotatory, levorotatory. So our aim is to find whether it is optically active or not. We have to check with that by passing plane polarized light with the optical activity to be find out molecule. Okay, that molecule and the interaction between this plane polarized light will decides whether it's exploratory or levorotatory, or it is optical activity or optical inactive molecule. Okay. Say for example, whether can you find out whether it is a chiral molecule or achiral molecule? Butan to all, then propan to all. Which one is chiral molecule? Which one is chiral molecule? All means alcohol, nothing but alcohol, OH we can put it. So we have to write the structure. That is CH3, CH2, CH, OH, CH3. Propan 1 all, propan 2 all, CH3, CH, OH, CH3. Now you can say, I gave a clue.
The first one is chiral, sir.
First one is chiral. Okay, why? Because the carbon is attached with 4 different groups. This is ethyl group, this is hydrogen, this is methyl group, and this is OH group. But in this case, OH is different, methyl is same. Na? Here H, I can write it here. Write H here. H is different. But here also methyl group, here also methyl group. That's what it is, achiral molecule. So achiral molecule, this is a chiral molecule. Okay. And next one is a enantiomers. What do you mean by enantiomers? Enantiomers are also a stereoisomers. So they are all also a stereoisomers. Stereoisomer means what? Orientation difference. Okay. Stereoisomer related to each other as non-superimposable mirror images. Non-superimposable mirror images. Okay. So here the enantiomers are the substance. In last we said some examples like 2 molecules will be taken. So here molecular formula you can check 1 hydrogen, 1 hydrogen, 1 COOH, 1 COOH, 1 Cl, 1 Cl, 1 CH3, 1 CH3. Here also carbon, here also carbon. So both are same molecule only, na? Only the orientation is different. Okay. Orientation is the only difference. Otherwise, everything both are same molecule. Okay. So here it has same molecular formula. So now we are assuming that the 2 molecules. Okay. Both molecules are having same molecular formula. Melting point, boiling point, everything is same. Solubility, everything is same, but only change in rotating plane polarized light. Only change in rotation of plane polarized light. That kind of compounds are called enantiomers. Okay, the enantiomers are the substance are nothing but they're all stereoisomer related to each other as a non-superimposable on its mirror images. Both are having same molecular formula, physical properties, physical state, melting point, boiling point, solubility, everything is same, but only change in rotating plane polarized light. One is rotating, one of the enantiomer, one of the stereoisomer, which is rotating towards the right side, another will be rotating in left side. That's what it is called as enantiomers. Okay. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. இதோட ஸ்டாப் பண்ணலாம் ரிமைனிங் அடுத்த கிளாஸ் பார்க்கலாம். ஓகே
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, okay, Kana. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
so much. Thank you so much. Some receptor reaction. Okay.